Bangladesh is in turmoil. Protests are erupting across the nation. The prime minister is rumored to have fled, and the economy is spiraling out of control. What led to this shocking collapse? Is this the beginning of an economic disaster? Today, we'll explore the crisis gripping Bangladesh, unraveling the events that pushed the nation to the brink. So stay tuned as we uncover the truth behind the headlines. On August 5th, Bangladesh witnessed unprecedented scenes after Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, age 76, resigned and fled the country following weeks of student-led protests. Thousands took to the streets in celebration, waving the national flag, while hundreds stormed her official residence in Dhaka. Viral photos and videos showed people lounging in her bedroom and taking personal items like clothes, designer bags, and even frozen fish. The protests also led to the vandalism of a statue of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Hasina's father and Bangladesh's founding leader. Crowds stormed buildings linked to her family, including the Bangabandhu Memorial Museum, where Rahman was assassinated in 1975. Hasina fled to India in a military helicopter, hoping to seek asylum in the UK, but faced technical roadblocks. The US canceled her visa. Her ouster was preceded by violent protests against job quotas, which students criticized as discriminatory, sparking a nationwide movement that ultimately led to her downfall. Soon, the military was deployed nationwide, with police enforcing a strict curfew under a shoot-on-sight order, and the government imposed a 10-day telecommunications and internet blackout. During this period, reports emerged of government helicopters firing at civilians and plainclothes officers raiding homes at night, arresting students as young as 17. One such student was Arif Sohai, an international studies major and coordinator of Students Against Discrimination, who went missing shortly after being interviewed. Authorities later confirmed his detention for 6 days. Public outrage grew when video showed the military using UN-marked vehicles during the crackdown, a shot giving Bangladesh's proud role in UN peacekeeping. The government claimed the logos were left on by mistake. Since mid-July, over 300 protesters have reportedly died, with allegations of a higher death toll due to police interference in hospital records. Meanwhile, an interim government backed by the army and led by Nobel laureate Mohammed Yunus has taken power following Hasina's ouster. Sheikh Hasina, once the world's longest-serving female head of government, began her fourth term as Bangladesh's prime minister earlier this year. However, her tenure was marred by accusations of undemocratic practices, including rigged elections. Before the most recent election, over 8,000 leaders and supporters of the opposition, Bangladesh National Party, were arrested, leading the party to boycott the election, just as they did in 2018 after their leader, Khaleda Zia, was jailed on corruption charges. Zia was only recently released from house arrest. The anti-Hasina sentiment peaked this year. Jeffrey MacDonald, an expert on South Asia, observed that the protests were fueled by economic challenges, a hostile opposition, and politically awakened youth, suggesting a more resilient protest movement was brewing. While Hasina's early leadership saw economic progress, particularly through the booming textiles industry and foreign remittance, it also led to growing income inequality and poverty. Despite Bangladesh's rise to a middle-income country, nearly 40% of young people aged 15 to 24 were neither employed nor in education or training last year. Though the World Bank predicts Bangladesh will leave the UN's least developed countries list by 2026, the nation faces a deepening economic crisis. With 9% inflation and 18 million young people unemployed in a country of 175 million, nearly a quarter of Bangladeshis are now relying on loans for basic needs. Hasina's promise to digitize Bangladesh saw internet access rise from 3% to almost 40%, and the tech sector now generates $1.4 billion annually. However, this growth came at the cost of individual freedoms. Amendments to the ICT Act and the controversial Digital Security Act allowed the government to suppress online dissent, with over 1,500 cases filed since 2018, including 450 against journalists. Though revised in 2023 with the Cybersecurity Act, critics argue it remains just as repressive. The Awami League, under Sheikh Hasina's leadership, has faced criticism for its harsh crackdown on political opponents and activists. Since Hasina first took office in 2009, international human rights organizations have reported over 600 enforced disappearances by security forces. Even during the recent protests after Hasina fled the country, dozens of abducted individuals were released from Ayan Ghor, or the House of Mirrors, a secret detention center operated by Bangladesh's military. Adding to the growing discontent, especially among the youth, was Hasina's attempt to elevate her father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, to an almost divine status through legal and cultural initiatives. This has reshaped how Bangladeshis perceive their country's history. According to Iqtisad Ahmed, a human rights attorney and journalist, it has become increasingly difficult to question Rahman's role in the liberation war or acknowledge the contributions of other key figures. Rahman's political journey began in 1970 when his party, the Awami League, won the most seats in Pakistan's parliamentary elections. However, a political crisis ensued when Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's Pakistan People's Party, the runner-up in the elections, threatened to boycott parliament if Rahman formed the government. This crisis sparked a civil disobedience movement in East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, and eventually led to the brutal 9-month war for independence, resulting in the creation of Bangladesh. During Hasina's 15 years in power, the narrative of Bangladesh's independence has been heavily centered on Rahman's story, often at the expense of other significant leaders. For example, Maulana Bhashani, a key figure in Bengali politics and an advocate for regional autonomy long before the 1971 revolution, has been largely sidelined. Despite his contributions, Bhashani's role has been minimalized in favor of Rahman's narrative. Similarly, General Ziaur Rahman, a regional commander during the 1971 war, who later became president of Bangladesh, has been erased from the historical record under Hasina's rule. General Zia declared Bangladesh's independence over the radio on March 27, 1971, but this was after Rahman had spoken about independence in a speech earlier that month. Debate continues over who should be credited with first declaring independence. Both the Awami League and the BNP have manipulated Bangladesh's history to suit their political agendas. However, given Hasina's longer tenure in power, the Awami League's influence has been more pronounced, leading to significant distortions of historical facts. As mentioned, other contributions to the Bangladeshi history has largely been erased. And those who dare question Sheikh Rahman's dominant legacy face severe repercussions, often through legal means, such as the Digital Security Act and its successor, the Cybersecurity Act. In 2021, a man from a village near Sylhet was arrested by paramilitary forces during a live Facebook broadcast for criticizing Hasina and Rahman. Central to the legacy building is the Banga Bandhu Memorial Museum, which was once Hasina's childhood home and the site where, in 1975, her father, uncle, and 3 brothers were assassinated. The museum preserves artifacts from Rahman's life and even the bullet holes from that tragic day. The Center for Research and Information, founded in 1996, became a key player in engaging the youth with the Rahman legacy. Events like the Joy Bangla concerts, held every March to commemorate Rahman's independence speech, featured performances by popular artists and played clips of Rahman's speech to keep young people connected to his story. The selective portrayal of history has left many young people questioning what they've been taught. The issue of job quotas, first introduced by Rahman in 1972, further complicates the nation's history, raising questions about who qualifies as a freedom fighter. On the eve of July 15th, when the protests took a violent turn, Sheikh Hasina sparked outrage during a press conference by labeling students as Razakars. This term, which originally meant volunteers in Urdu, became notorious in Bangladesh as it referred to a paramilitary force. So what's your opinion regarding today's video? Let us know, and please subscribe.